If we could count it down. So 48, 47. Oh, do it like a Mr. On.
42, 40, 38. This is the voice of the Mr. We know that you can hear us, Earthmen.
27, 26, 25. It's going too fast. Slow it down.
The value of your investment may go down as well as up.
Please, your vote will not count.
And you may still be charged. Oh, quick, Kenny, pull the lever.
Pull the lever. Pull it. Right. Okay. Right. What?
Pull it now.
This is a very dramatic... Now what?
What does this button do?
I'm sure it does. It just... Doesn't it play some music? Good evening and welcome to this week's edition of Riker's Beard Live. Joining me, as always, the ant to my deck, to my left.
Hello.
Mr. James Dillon. And to my right, a special guest this week. Unfortunately, sadly, Carl can't make it, but we've got an adequate, more than adequate replacement, really. Dare I say, an upgrade.
Well, Carl's not watching, so yeah.
The fabulous Mr. Tony. How the devil are you, Tony?
Hello, everyone, and hello, Antor Deck. It's good to be here.
Which one? I don't know which one is which. So, am I Ant or Deck? I don't.
That's why I said Antor Deck, because that way I don't have to worry.
Well, we don't know if we identify as Ant and or Deck.
Which one's the short? Presumably, I'm the short ass. So, which one's the short?
Deck
one?
is the shorter one, and
Okay.
Ant is the one with the big forehead.
Well, I assume that the reason you look shorter than James there is because you're doing the same film sort of editing that they did in The Hobbit and Lord of the Rings, where you're further away from the camera while James is closer.
No. Small, far away.
We're actually the same distance away. There's no two ways about it. So I'm the shorter one, which is Deck. And
So your Deck, that makes me Ant then.
And okay.
That means I always have to stand on stage right.
I'm glad we
Left.
got that cleared
And
up.
it also
Yeah.
means we have to blind you with a paint gun.
Oh, can I see
I'm blind! Where are the lads? I'm blind.
Good.
Now we've got that.
I've never seen Biker Grove.
You never watched Biker Grove?
No.
Biker Grove, innit?
Biker Grove.
Biker.
Biker Grove is a show that people will remember, but there's this kind of Mandela effect that they all seem to think that it just ended normally. But Biker Grove had the most surrealist ending of a children's TV show ever. And I don't know if you guys were ever around at that point, but basically at the end of Biker Grove, genuinely, they realized they were in a TV show and started to write their own script. Genuinely.
Didn't a Red Dwarf episode end like that?
This is what happens when
It ended with a nuclear bomb going off or something, and it was faded to white, and it was just like done. So
this is what happens when writers either A, start using, or B, come off drugs. So,
Yeah.
wow, gosh, we're light on viewers this evening, but let's say hey to who's there. First of all, we have to say a big hey and a thank goodness you're home to Gary. Hey, Gary. We're really pleased the operation was a success and you're on the mend and you're back home. We understand that you can't join us in the pub later for obvious reasons, but we are going to have a pint for you. We'll send you a picture from the pub, mate. We hope you're healing up well. And remember, if there's anything you need, please just get in touch straight away. Tony may not know, Gary sadly fell off his garage roof and broke his leg in 2 places.
Oh my God. I understand that people want to cosplay as Rod Hull, but this is not the way to do it.
We did that last week.
The
week before?
What's lonely and goes, shh. Rod Hull's TV.
Bloody marvellous. What ho, Christoph? How are you doing?
You have a quick story about that. I can't say who it was or where I got it from, but I actually know that I think it was Central TV or one of the TV stations. Someone had come into the control room, was having a chat, and had sat down on one of the control banks, and they pressed the button that turned off the TV. They turned off the feed for about 10 seconds, and because they turned off the feed for that couple of minutes, that's when Rod Hull thought his antenna had gone and climbed up to do the antenna. And they reckon that actually, if he'd waited like a minute or two, genuinely, the TV would have just come back to normal and he wouldn't have died. And for years, this woman has been told, "You killed Rod Hull."
I would just like to I'd just like to extrapolate on that a little bit. If Rod Hull hadn't have died, what actually would have changed in the universe?
We would have had more Pink Windmill.
Really?
Yeah.
Do you reckon they'd have brought it back on Netflix?
With 15 prequels.
As a permanent host.
Good evening, Christoph. Nice to have you aboard, as always, chap. Dave, how you doing, Dave? Good evening. Good evening to you. James, hey, James. He used to watch Biker Grove, we think, all the time.
He used to watch the Pink Windmill.
James, let's drink to your leg. Yes, Gary, we will have a drink to your leg.
Can you remember? So the baddie was Grotbags the Witch, and she had a crocodile or something.
She did. I met her and the crocodile.
Was there another one that was a scarecrow or something?
So we had a robot. We had a robot.
A robot.
We had a robot.
Yeah.
We had a crocodile.
Yeah.
And a cowardly lion.
No. At what point have we crossed over with Wizard of Oz?
No, there was definitely a robot and a crocodile.
And Teabag.
No, that was another one. Teabag was a.
I'm sure Teabag was Grotbag's assistant and then became a spin-off.
A spin-off show. Oh.
So at some point, we're going to have to start talking about Star Trek.
So hang on. There's somebody at the door. There's somebody at the door. There's somebody at the door.
Well, actually, if we're going to talk Star Trek, and on a serious note, I'd like everybody, including people reading, to raise a glass, because if you haven't heard, yesterday evening, Peter David, one of the most legendary Star Trek novelists of all time, finally lost his battle with a variety of health injuries that had happened since a stroke like 10, 15 years earlier. And obviously it's quite a raw thing for anybody who grew up in the time when like Next Gen was coming on. He created like the New Frontier. He wrote a ton of Babylon 5 stuff, but we don't talk about that. But he also wrote some of the greatest Q novels of all time. He wrote things like Q Squared, Imzadi, but Q Squared I always remember because he actually had Tigger in it. So for me, Peter David was the man and was absolutely amazing. And R.I.P.
Yeah.
Peter David.
It's very sad when any of the Star Trek alumni leave us that are beloved. But at the same time, it always makes me very proud of the way people come together and celebrate. Just as we're doing now, we're raising a glass to a fellow officer, it feels like, that's died, because he's a member of the family. So it's the way it goes. And it's the continuing reach that Star Trek has that brings us all together. And yeah, when a creative flame's put out, it feels a bit shitty.
And having killed the entire thing here, my work is done. So
at this point, normally I'd make a crass joke to bring things around, but I feel that would be probably a little bit inappropriate. So I'll let James do it.
Well, let's drink to the fact that Gary survived his injury and that he's still with us. So, there's good news and there's bad news. Things always balance out in the universe.
Oh, yes. So Gary actually hurt himself trying to trim back his willow tree that was going to damage his garage roof. Presumably, that job is not finished. I wondered if you and I should volunteer to go and...
Oh, I've got a chainsaw.
Oh, you guys should absolutely go and do it.
What
And
could go
video
wrong?
it.
I think you've got to change. I've got a ladder.
Mm.
I've got a cricket.
Mission. Which one of you all there wear top?
Well, I've got a cricket helmet and cricket pads. I bought them for my son because he's playing for Broadstairs for cricket now. So
Right.
we've got all the safety gear you should have when you're operating a chainsaw.
We should probably have some ropes of some kind.
In a garage roof, would you?
Well, there's a tree.
Yeah, but we how are we going to get onto the roof?
We use the ladder to
let's
get
cli-
onto
let's
the roof.
climb
We
up
use
the
the
tree.
rope to affix to the tree,
Okay.
and we just make sure we don't tie ourselves onto the branches we're cutting off.
What could go wrong?
Oh, let's drill a hole in the branch and fill it full of gunpowder, and we'll.
And we're going to take the Top Gear style.
That's going to be
tree
safer
surgery.
than using a chainsaw. We'll just have a really long fuse.
Fire
and
in the
then-
hole.
Yeah, we can light it, and it'll be like Mission Impossible.
That's the tree away from the roof. You're looking to detonate the tree.
It works. It works surprisingly well. You can buy these illegal firecrackers off of Temu.
If you got a shotgun,
They're
maybe we
perfectly
could just
safe.
shoot it down.
I don't have a shotgun, but I do have a shotgun. But I had to sign it over to someone, but he'll happily lend it to me. It's fine.
Do you know someone with a rocket launcher? Actually, we can't go there, can we?
Can't go there. No, that made the news. That made the news. It definitely wasn't him. So yes, we should probably talk about Star Trek and Star Trek. Also, I think I told you the other week. I'm doing the Horus Heresy, which I wish I'd never started. It's good, but I didn't realize how long it was. James Swallow writes a load of the Horus Heresy books. I didn't realize how many Star Trek books he wrote.
Oh yeah.
And
He's done some really, really good ones.
I'm not being rude about the quality of the Horus Heresy. Some are better than others. James Swallow is by far the best. His The Flight of the Eisenstein is outstanding. It's a really, really good book.
Richard,
Hmm.
in my first Star Trek destination that I turned up to, which I think was 2018.
That's when we first met.
Yes, it was. It was when I called back up with James. We did a panel with me and James Swallow about working in the Star Trek universe and talked about his books. And I'm pretty convinced you sat in the audience when we were doing it. So how can you now go, oh, he wrote lots of Star Trek novels?
He was drunk.
Well, not just that, but we've had him on the show.
Yeah, we did an hour-long interview with James Swallow.
Well, I had no idea, none whatsoever.
When they were killing off all the expanded universe type stuff
Yeah.
because of Picard was changing everything, what was canon.
Yeah, he's been on the show, and I still didn't clock it was. I asked him some very pertinent questions. I felt.
Well, we all read the book, Richard.
Well,
We all read the book so that we could discuss it.
But yes, so and apparently he lives in Kent, and we're going to
top end of Kent.
Yes, he writes not just he writes all kinds of Star Trek, Warhammer, all kinds of stuff. We were going to
invite him for a beer.
We'd take him out for dinner or something. I can't remember now. Then COVID happened and everything. It was all got washed away, didn't it?
That ruined everything.
Yes, if you want to read the Horus Heresy, you should because it's brilliant. His books.
That comment there from Gary
are definitely the best. The Flight of the Eisenstein is possibly it's in my top 10 books, let alone Warhammer books. It's a really, really good read. Gary says, my daughter is watching. Oh, wow. Hello, Gary's daughter. We're the people that take your dad away and make him have fun. My daughter's watching in disbelief at your offer. Which offer?
I wonder if that's a good or a bad disbelief.
Which offer do we think this is?
Cutting down the tree.
Cutting down the tree.
Blowing up the tree might be the one, actually.
I'm more. I think we could do it. You've got a chainsaw. I've got a chain. Is yours like a plug-in one, or is it?
No, it's petrol powered.
You've got a petrol one. That's far more dangerous.
I haven't used it in some years. Actually, it's going to need some maintenance.
There's a Freudian thing going on there. You just turned around and said, "I think we can do him." So I think there's more of a concern here.
We'll do it. Yeah.
I love it when you go. Vroom, vroom, oh, that's great.
How many years is it since it's been fired up? Is it two-stroke? Or?
2 or 3 years.
Okay, we'll just clean the filter out. It'll be fine.
Yeah. I mean, I haven't needed to cut any trees down for a while, so.
No corpses to dismember. Yeah. So back to Star Trek. So as we know now, it looks like Sandy Jonathan Frakes isn't appearing at Warp 1.
No, it doesn't appear that.
Doesn't appear
so Tony,
that way.
you raised that question with Star Fury.
That's genuinely, all taking the piss aside, for those people that cancelled Blackpool to go to that one because they wanted to see Frakes, generally gutted for you that he's not going to be there. But it turns out he is going to Blackpool. Not saying he 100% is going to. Okay.
Well,
but I've heard that he's going to be there.
I'm certainly a cardboard version of it might be.
And there's an element here, and I've known Sean for pretty much as long as I've known James, at least, because me, Sean, and James all came from Pages Bar back in the 90s. And I've been a guest at Sean's events. I've been to Sean's events, and he runs very good events. And obviously, I'm also known as being somebody who works with him.
Such good feedback about his Stargate one that's gone. Yeah.
He does great little events. Jason, obviously, I worked with him in Showmasters and things like that. There is, as far as I'm concerned, there's no real rivalry. I mean, granted, they're both doing fan shows, but there's enough fan showing for everybody. So I'm not in any way trying to be partisan when I talk about this in any particular side. But the moment he announced Frakes as a guest, I did check because I wanted to make sure. And I realized immediately he was actually the same weekend doing Fan Expo with Shatner. And there was an element of, if you've got a choice of doing a small convention in Heathrow or Fan Expo, you're going to pick Fan Expo. Also, it doesn't have to do an international flight. And I contacted Sean and said, are you really sure this is happening? And from what I can work out, I think it was an agent issue. And I'm going to say that. I don't think he deliberately did it. I don't think it was kind of a handshake deal and he thought, well, I'll put it up anyway. I genuinely think he thought he had Frakes, but the due diligence on the agent hadn't been sorted. I do think that it caused problems for destination because I know people did cancel their destination tickets to then go to Warp 1. And I know there are now people who are looking to cancel their Warp 1 tickets. It has made it a problem. The last time I saw any kind of thing like this was probably Manny Patel when he was doing his conventions like 20 years ago, bouncing from one and arguing. It's just, it's a shame that conventions have become a point where people want to go when they see the big name, if that makes sense. I used to go to conventions when people went for the fun and to see people.
So I have to say, for me personally, and I've said this to James, and we recently went to Portsmouth Comic Con for the first time.
Yes.
Genuinely. So that's the best one I've been to for interacting with Star Trek fans, and it wasn't even a Star Trek convention. I think it's because there'd never been any Star Trek representation.
Yes, and then we turn up.
And then we turned up, and so many people kind of came out that lived in the local area. And we had so many lovely conversations and met so many lovely people. Don't get me wrong, we meet lovely people in Birmingham and all the other places we've been as well. But I think it's because they appreciated us being there so much, coming to the hometown.
And Portsmouth is very much it's a grant-run town event as well. The council run this as well with the organisers because I've known the organisers for years, and they do build such a good not representation, but a good feeling when you go there. Everybody I know who's been there said to be one of the friendliest conventions they've been to.
Well, they looked after us extremely well. They were friendly, and there was, let's be honest, there was no star power there. There was our friend Norman Lovett.
Tell the story about when he walked in. God.
So Norman Lovett was there while we were setting up and looked a little bit lost.
Yeah.
So I helped him into an elevator, and I'm not sure where he was supposed to go.
No. Well, he didn't come in and say,
"All right, dudes,"
which disappointed us.
Yeah, but and then friend of the show who played Grand Moff Tarkin, Guy Henry.
Mm-hmm.
He said hello as well because we've had him before. He's a lovely chap.
Was he dressed in his Nazi uniform?
No. He's uncommonly tall.
Yes.
But
Richard Gibson and the woman who plays Helga are always in LOLO costumes, and sometimes it's a bit concerning.
Well, hang on, Guy Henry's not been in a LOLO.
No, we're talking about
Mr. Hanson in who are you thinking of?
Peter
Are you
Cushing's
thinking
body
of
double.
Guy Sinner?
Guy Sinner.
Yes.
No.
Lieutenant Gruber? No.
Yes. Now he would have been in his Nazi costume.
Complete. If Guy Henry had turned up in a Nazi uniform, I think eyebrows would have been raised. There's about that.
Henry has stopped. That's what I'm saying.
But it was a fantastic convention. Lovely people, but if I may be very blunt, if you go there, don't hang around the Guildhall after dark. That was, honestly, I'm not easily intimidated. No.
Oh, but they were very Star Wars heavy, Tony. The Star Wars, they had a whole zone, several rooms, probably 4 or 5 dozen cosplayers. And we had all these Trek people turn up for a photo op on our bridge all at once. They'd all agreed to meet at 2. And I said afterward, let's go on an away mission to the Star Wars zone. It was great fun. We mixed it up.
Yeah. So it's but getting back on topic as a case of, do you go to these conventions to meet famous people? Yeah, I think that's the draw. I think a lot of people have a certain autograph. They need one more signature in their book or on a poster. Of course they do. But what do I go for personally? Well, my interaction with I forget his name now, the chap from Discovery that did Strange New Worlds now, Captain Pike.
Anson Mount.
Yeah, meeting him and not having a clue who he was. And having a really nice conversation. Well, I think you were there, Tony. When
this was one of the Birmingham events,
yeah,
so he was there with Ethan.
Where did you meet him again?
Well, we met in the toilet.
Yeah,
and then and then
it is there in this story.
Yeah, and then I went
by appointment though.
And then I went back to the VIP area because I was there with who's the artist chap?
J.K. Woodward.
Yes.
Yeah.
And we were sat down together and we were chat, and I genuinely had no idea who he was, and he was a really nice chap. And he asked me, like, was I here for the convention? And I asked him if he was. And I genuinely don't think he thought I was taking the piss. Otherwise, he might have told me. I genuinely didn't know who he was. But I had a lovely chat with him. He's a nice guy.
He's lovely, and he's a gorgeous, gorgeous man as well.
When we see him in the new series, will his quiff be even taller? Will it be ski slope style? Is it going to get bigger every year?
High gravity. In fact, there's actually an entire subplot of one of the episodes where he cannot put the away mission helmet on because his hair is so high it just hangs like here.
It's honestly, if I get the chance to sit down and have a chat with him again, I'm going to say to him, do you take your inspiration from something about Mary? It's got that thing.
Have you seen the launch ramp on the front of our aircraft carriers? Because it looks a lot like your hair.
But I go to the conventions because I like seeing people. Tony and I, we met at a convention.
Yeah.
We wouldn't be friends if there hadn't been a Star Trek convention. James and I, we met on the internet, to be fair, but we met via a convention on the internet.
Yes.
We wouldn't be friends if it wasn't. And one of the things I love the most, and I've actually decided to put these down to words now. I'm writing a book, and these are collections of stories of lovely things that happen at conventions. I've decided, because I've got so many I've picked up, and there were 2 really lovely ones from Portsmouth that I genuinely don't want to forget them. So I thought, well, I want to write them down. I thought, well, if I'm going to write them down, I'll try and make them into some sort of book. And I started writing them all down. It's made me realize just how wonderful these conventions are, because you go to a convention or you speak to someone that's been to one, everyone's got just the most wonderful story to tell that's unique to them. And it's something you haven't heard before. And it's uplifting, and everyone's got it. You make friends. I met you. I met you. You have wonderful experiences with actors. Do you remember the time the Next Generation cast couldn't get over the fence? I mean, and James and
we opened a gate for them. Yeah.
Honestly, you couldn't make it up. The things that James and I have been and done and seen, and everyone's got stories like that. So I've decided to put it all down into words and have a collection of stories from a fan's perspective.
Yeah.
And I've loved doing it. It's not a chore doing it, because it's a walk down memory lane. And every time you go to a convention or speak to someone, you can collect one of these little stories. Now, I think it's fantastic. And yes, of course, meeting your idols and meeting stars is huge on everyone's agenda. Sometimes your expectations are met, and sometimes they're not. I won't name names. Oh, actually, I'll ask you a bit of advice here, Tony. So in my book, I'm going to refer to every single celebrity as Kenneth, and that way,
Even the girls, right? Okay.
even the girls, yeah. I'm just going to every celebrity is Kenneth, and that way there's kind of no crossover. That's is that how it's done? That's quite suitable?
Yeah,
isn't it?
yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Cool. But I think you need to sort of make it a little bit more. So maybe like tall Kenneth, short Kenneth, old Kenneth, young Kenneth.
Oh, okay. All right. Yep. Okay.
Kenneth, Nazi Kenneth.
Kenneth the Klingon.
Kenneth with the quiff.
Yeah.
Drunk Kenneth. Kenneth with the tattoo.
Expect you know who I am then.
Are you going to put in the story where they thought you were a guest at the convention?
We signed autographs. I think that makes us guests.
No, I mean, when you were the guest.
Oh, yeah, at the sci-fi ball.
Yeah.
That one. That was. You're right. I should include that because that was hilarious. Was it one of the Trekkie girls, Vicky, went to the hotel manager and said, "Look, who do you think he is?" and they said, "Well, he was in that film with Cameron Diaz." I went, "Was I?"
Have you not looked yourself up on Ryan?
Yes, I was. That's what you say.
But it was brilliant though because we got a room out of it, didn't we? Got a free room. We got all sorts of stuff. I mean,
They couldn't do enough for you.
They couldn't do enough for me. No. Someone came and asked me if I had everything I needed. Marvelous. Great. Right, jumping quickly into the comments because we've been ignoring too much. Christoph says, I hear all from the comment. It was Smeg. It wasn't Smeg at all.
Hashtag Smeg.
Oh, it's very Red Dwarf heavy, yes. But it certainly wasn't, unless you're talking, no, there were no washing machines for sale. No Scandinavian washing machines for sale at all. Rashid 2019, I think that was when Anson Mount was there for the first time.
It was. Because I was hosting the main stage and he came out with Ethan Peck, and I have to say I had to pause because there was such manliness walking out on stage in one go. There was a moment from the entire audience.
That's what I did in the toilet.
Well, with you there as well, Tony. I mean, wow.
Oh well, exactly.
That's me. I rose between two thorns. Right. So, Leah, hey, Leah, how you doing? Yes, Johnny Bravo style quiff. Absolutely. So, Rashid, most of my closest friends are my friends I've met online and later in person. Star Trek, presumably, we're Star Trek show. We'll go with that. Leah actually met her partner at a con. And Rashid remembers that.
Is Rashid her partner?
It wasn't supposed to be announced.
This might get a bit awkward, James. I think.
Okay. Number 3, tell us where you come from and a little bit about yourself.
Do you ever seen the Alan Partridge Miss Norwich?
Yes.
Do you like animals? Do you like animals? Okay.
Or the Father Ted, the Lovely Girls contest.
The Lovely Girls. Lovely Girls. But yeah, so yeah, you go to a convention. Of course, it's important that you have someone there from the Star Trek universe that you get to experience, and I mean that word quite literally in some respects, because you get to interact with them, you get to talk to them, yes. And I think, and I generally don't mean this disrespectfully, but I think after you've met some of them in person, you appreciate their acting talents a bit more. 100% I do.
I'm interrupting for a second. I mean, the Destination Star Trek 2 years ago, when we were in the middle of the SAG strike, and we couldn't mention Star Trek, their characters, any stories from the show, we had people like Ethan Phillips turn to me in the green room, and we were going on stage about an hour's time, and he said, no one's going to give a shit about anything I say because I've got nothing they want to know. And I said, trust me, from the first question, you'll have it. And we went on stage, and I said, right, so you were on stage, you were a theatre. Tell us about the time that Tennessee Williams gave you a new soliloquy to say there and then on stage that you had to learn as he told it to you. And he was like, how did you know about this? And I was like, because I researched it. But it was. He'd never told the story about how the woman who was in the same scene as him had to do a costume change and it took longer. And Tennessee Williams was watching and went, yeah, we need to make this longer. This is what you're going to say. I mean, this was his first ever job. and Tennessee Williams is doing this. And he was just like, oh, and that was it. He was gone. For the next 20 minutes, it was just bam, 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 bam. And that's the kind of thing you get. You know, when J.G. Hertz was telling us how the mob basically tried to get him offed, and that's why he left the Nixon administration. And you're like, whoa, hang on, what? You know, this is what you want. You want these kind of stories. You don't just want, do you remember in episode 6 when you fell over a brick? You know, it's just, no, you want these stories.
I was so lucky at that particular convention. I don't often go, I'm not an autograph hunter, it's not my thing. But I'd gotten back into detail painting back then, and I'd done a bust of Ethan Phillips.
I remember, I saw it, yeah.
Yeah. And I got him to sign the and I was I must have appeared very arrogant because we were so busy at that, because we were hosting all kinds of bits and pieces. We were running from one from another, and I ran up and he wasn't there, and I thought it's my only chance I had to get him to sign it, and he wasn't at the thing. I was like, oh, and his handler or whatever was there, and I was like, I'll leave it here and I'll come back in a second. And I saw him coming back and I rushed back and I said, I'm in such a hurry. Could you sign this for me, please? I really want to say how wonderful and great you are, but I haven't got time. I said, but can I please just ask an honest answer? I want to know. Did they sign you on as light entertainment and then realize you were a much better actor than they first thought you were? Or did you kind of insist on having, you know, because you went from being light relief to having PTSD to doing all kinds of wonderful things, you know, that you never would have imagined the character would have done in the first season? I don't know how much you're allowed to talk about it. I said, I don't really care what the answer is either. I just want to say you're brilliant. And he said, what a nice man you are.
He's okay, I'll put him right later.
He said, what a nice man you are. I was like, thank you. Anyway, sign this. I've got to go and do this martial arts talk. So could you? and he did.
I'm going to go and punch my friend in the head. Yeah.
I did. Did you hear about that? So we did a Star Trek martial arts panel.
Oh, yes.
And the idea was I would demonstrate on James some techniques, but I forgot the pad for him to hold. So I just punched you instead.
All I heard was, have you seen the Riker's beard? Richard is punching the shit out of James at the moment. And I was like, what, something happened? They went, no, this is
It was great. It was marvellous. Absolutely fantastic. It was a real hit with the. I mean, we were sold. Well, everything we did was sold out.
Yeah,
everything we did was. Yeah, they were turning people away. The Mr. and Mrs. quiz was good fun. I went full Bruce Forsyth. I just channeled my inner Bruce.
Bruce Forsyth didn't do Mr. and Mrs. It was Derek Beatty.
I didn't care. I still did it.
More Latin Schofield.
I picked my 2 favourites. I did everything. I was well into it.
Yeah.
But yeah. Ethan Phillips was. It's a privilege to meet all of the actors.
Yeah.
But some of them, like when you meet like Ethan Phillips, he's such a gentleman, and Jeff Coombs. You know, there's these real gentlemen. You know, there's just can't do enough, and just lovely, nice. So the first autograph I asked for from anyone in my life was at the first Destination Star Trek, where we were there but we didn't meet.
Mm-hmm.
And I went, and I'd never been to a convention before or asked anyone for an autograph, and I was absolutely terrified. And I'm not, as you know, I'm not a nervous person. And I don't know why I was so scared of meeting Jeff Coombs. And I went up and I just kind of blurted out at him what a wonderful actor I thought he was, and thrust a picture at him to sign. And he was so kind. He was like, what's your name? I'm like, what's my name? He said, yeah, your name. Well, my name's Richard.
Think about this, yeah.
And he said, oh, I'm Jeff. Hi. Sit down. I was like, whoa. You know, he was so kind to me. It was unbelievable. You know, and he completely put me at ease in just a couple of sentences.
And then he was in our music video, wasn't he?
And then he was in our music video. And the thing is, it's for him who has to meet hundreds of people over the course of a day and make each experience unique. That must be so hard. And he does it effortlessly. You know,
would you like to see my first ever signature?
Please.
Because I have it here, and it was at Page's Bar. So I don't know if you'll be able to see this, but this is...
Oh, Bruce Boxleitner.
No, let's move this closer to the camera. I got to sign Bruce.
Bruce Boxleitner.
At Page's Bar. I had nothing, and I went, I'm really sorry. And he saw the TV, he's only, and he went, I'll sign him. He's wearing my uniform. So I was just like, thank you. So I've kept that.
Michael O'Hare. Oh, he was good, wasn't he, as Sinclair?
Actually, no, I've just told a complete lie there. That wasn't my first ever autograph. My first ever autograph I got was when I was 12 at the Winter Gardens in Margate, when Big Daddy wrestled Giant Haystacks.
Nice.
Oh, wow.
I got an autographed Big Daddy picture at Christmas.
Oh my God, that's amazing.
And it said Merry Christmas, and yeah. There we are.
What about grot bags? Didn't you get grot bags?
I got Tom Thumb's signature. He signed the back of it. Giant Haystacks didn't stick around. He went straight off, staying in character. But yeah,
Well, I met Giant Haystacks when he was playing, and he was in WCW, and he was Loch Ness.
yes.
And everyone was shouting out Giant Haystacks, and he was like, no, Loch Ness. He lasted about the length of a cup of tea, and then sort of went back to being Giant Haystacks.
As we're going off piste quickly, I must tell you when I went to go and see WWE at the O2, and this is when Drew McIntyre had first started, and he didn't have a beard, and he wasn't quite as much. He was just a bit tall, and he had quite long hair.
Well, when he was basically Drew Galloway.
And I had a bit to drink, and he walked and
You? Really?
feels like a giraffe.
Snake!
Yeah. And Mrs. Richards got us front row. I was literally behind the commentators, I was behind the teacher, Matt Stryker, and
Striker?
Drew McIntyre came out to you wouldn't believe, because he's Scottish, the boos. It was just deafening, the boos. And he walked past me and I went, "Oi, McIntyre!" I said, "You look like my sister! She's gorgeous!" and he was trying so hard, but I cracked him. He went, he turned around, he looked at me, he went, it was absolutely brilliant. It was so funny. Joe, they're worth going to, these shows, because when the cameras go off, you find out the wrestlers that really love it. Like, as soon as the cameras went off, CM Punk came back out, Rey Mysterio came back out. All the ones that really love it came back out. All the other ones straight. But anyway, we're going very off piste. Yeah.
Well, no, because many wrestlers have been in Star Trek.
I have, and this is why I'm going to go back to the comments, because
You're looking for the quote from Leah there.
There we are. Here
That's
we go.
it, yeah.
So, my picture with him is so awkward because I'm in my 7 Sunkatse costume. I'm tall anyway, plus heels, and I look like a giant. Yeah, Jeff Coombs is not a tall man. But
we should get him a box. What are they called? Apples or half apples or something in the trade. Yeah, the boxes that people stand on, they're called that.
The ones that they always carry around with Tom Cruise.
Yeah, except no, Tom Cruise isn't short. That's all just done with cameras. No, don't tell him that to his face.
oh, completely what?
In the movie industry, boxes that people stand on to make them appear taller are called apples.
Why are they called that?
They used to be apples.
They don't want to say, get the box out for the short ass. They'll say, we need some apples, because it makes it sound healthy.
Why don't they do what I do and just make them crouch? Because if I'm with someone who's taller than me and they need to look smaller, I just say, well,
Or they could dig a hole.
get down. Yeah. There we are.
They have films where people have had to stand in lower areas rather than have someone on a box. Usually when they're walking into a scene and they stop, the person is actually placed in a hole slightly under.
So we had so today I'm going to do my shameless proud father moment. So my son plays for Margate's Division 1 team under 14s. This year he's done what no Margate team has done in about 30 years. They won the league.
The man to watch him die.
They won the league and the cup, and he's won the Golden Glove for most clean sheets and fewest conceded goals. I'm very proud. My son is 14 and much taller than me. He's about 6 foot now. And they had a thing you have to stand in front of to have your picture taken. And they had the Margate winners, but you couldn't see it because he was too tall.
So like in Police Squad where Nordberg, you could never see him below the...
So I had... So it's a really awkward looking picture of my son sort of crouched down so you can see the winner thing. Yes. Very, very proud of him. Awkward photo. Yeah. Very, very proud of him.
Splendid. Yeah.
Yeah. So, oh yes, it was Ethan, not Jeff. They're similar height. I think it still works, Leah. Not to worry.
Good.
Right. Well, we were only going to do a short show tonight because James and I have got an appointment.
Yes.
But this has rolled over quite nicely. So I'm going to put this open to the floor now. Any other business? Anything we need to discuss?
I mean, we may be appearing at the Manston Comic Con in about 2 weeks' time. That's the only news we have, but we've been talking about that for a while. There's not a great deal of press about it.
There's been no press about it. We don't think it's going to happen. Yeah.
What's happening in 2 weeks' time?
The Manston Comic Con, which is at the RAF Manston Museum, but they haven't advertised it at all. And yeah, well, we'll see if that even happens.
As far as we're aware, we're the only people that are booked.
No, I know a lot of Ghostbusters are booked because they've tried to book me through that as well.
Ghostbusters are always booked. I mean, you can't move from fucking Ghostbusters. Seriously. The problem is he won't let me wear my ghost costume.
It's because of the special hat that you've got with it. Yeah.
A sheet with eye holes in. There's nothing wrong with that.
You're a ghost wizard. This is how it works.
Exactly.
So there's that, and our only other booking is Destination as it stands, and we await news on that.
I do believe, and I believe I've mentioned this to you guys before, but on the 5th and 6th or 6th and 7th, whichever the Saturday and Sunday are of July, you guys are both guests at the London Film and Comic Con.
Oh, are we?
I unfortunately can't make. Well, I certainly can't do the Saturday because I'm running a school event.
So when is this? The 6th and the 7th?
Yes. Well, wait, hang on. Let me just check.
No, the 5th is a Saturday, I think.
Yes, it's 5th and 6th of July.
So we might be able to go.
That you're always guests at the London Film and Comic Con.
Can we have a table though this year, Tony?
Can I tell the story of the last time we went there? Tony may not have even. Yeah. I think Tony must have heard it.
You have.
Yeah. Go on.
Well, James and I went for lunch, and we were wearing our guest passes, and we shared a table with a lovely lady and her daughter who saw our guest passes and immediately asked if she could have a selfie with us.
And then she embarrassedly said, I'm terribly sorry, I don't know who you are.
Who are you? And she'd already taken the selfies and sent them to her friends. And we're like, well, let your friends decide who we are and what we're from. Let's see if they... And a few of them did went, oh my God, how did you meet them?
Because they obviously were like...
Marvellous.
We need to create a backstory, don't we?
Well, I think if we're going as guests this year, we should get some headshots done, at least.
I think we should have headshots done in uniforms.
Yeah, well, we can do that.
Oh no, let's do them topless.
No, not in our Nazi uniforms either.
Let's pretend we're retired wrestlers. That'd be so good.
What would your wrestler name
Tom
be?
Thumb. I'll be
the judge.
Yes, the judge and Tom Thumb. We were a tag team. The judge and Tom Thumb. I think we should definitely. That's such a good idea. We'll get some face paint.
Definitely do that. Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think it'd be a crime if we didn't.
I'm holding you to this now. The only way you will get these passes now is if I see some 8x10s.
Yeah. Do you know? Have you ever been put in the walls of Jericho?
No.
Okay, we'll do it for a picture. It'll look great.
I've got a friend called Mark Corden. I don't know if you guys have met Mark at any of the events we've done, but Mark was one of the second assistant director on Doctor Who when Chibnall was doing it. And they did one scene where it was like a flashback to Gallifrey and you had the 3 Time Lords standing there. And it was like a distant shot of 3 Time Lords. And Mark was like, please, can I be one of the Time Lords? And they said, yes, absolutely, whatever. We don't care. Go on, go stand there, put a stupid thing on your shoulders. And he went off and he basically put on the costume and had to fit in for the costume and stuff like that. And it was only like later on when he went to see if he could borrow the costume. He's like, well, can I, if you're not using the costume, can I get some more photos? And they said, oh, it's in the box over there. And they pointed up and it was in a box and on it was marked Omega because he was playing Omega in this flashback. So we went at Gallifrey 1, and I made 8x10s of him standing in front of Gallifrey. And yes, he was doing his little autograph signing as guy from working back behind the scenes in Doctor Who. I slammed them down and were like, ladies and gentlemen, this guy was Omega. He will sign.
He's the original. He's the first.
And I've never seen a man pale so quickly. Definitely get that sorted for you. Oh, quickly, the question, by the way.
Yeah, quickly before we sign off, are you guys coming to Walk One? So, as I understand it, you can't buy like a day ticket.
No,
you've got to pay.
You've got to have a 3-day pass.
Three-day pass.
It's only like 130 quid.
Yeah, I've heard that these are really well-run events, and I'm very keen on going. I don't think I'll be able to do that event and the Blackpool one, so we'll have to wait and see what's happening.
Well, it's in October. It's like 2 months later.
Yeah, I don't think I'll be able to get away for both. So I know you're all about going for the day to one of them. I'd like to go for the weekend and enjoy the whole.
I will say the evening entertainment is always fun at a Star Fury event.
Yeah, so you know, the answer to that is hopefully yes. Are you planning on going, Tony?
I will not be able to go. It actually is around the same time as another conference I've been invited to. So
a better one, you mean? Is that
no, not at all. No, as I said, I mean, I will point out. I said this to my wife today. I didn't go to Ascension because Richard Dean Anderson was there, and he's the only guy he's on my list of people I really want to meet and get a picture with because he was MacGyver, and you know how much I love MacGyver, and even that I couldn't.
You love MacGyver more than Patty and Selma.
Oh God, yeah.
Don't thank me, man. Thank the moon's gravitational pull.
So yeah, so basically, I like Sean's events. I did Elementary with him, and I've done a few of them as a guest as well. So you know, he does run it quite nicely. It's just unfortunately I just can't do this one. So
that's a shame. You'll miss Jonathan Frakes. Anyway, on that bombshell. We're going to sign off because James and I are going to the pub, and it's going to. Oh, it's a bank holiday. It won't close shortly, but we should probably get there soon anyway.
Yes, true.
Tony, delightful to see you.
Thanks for coming on, mate.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you for inviting me.
Really, honestly, we always have such fun when you're on. We love the girls, and we can't wait to see you soon. The Chinese was moderately acceptable, wasn't it?
It was very nice. It would have been nice if you'd been able to join us. We were doing
why. So we will do the next one.
Do it again soon.
We'll catch you all again soon. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time, please do look after yourselves and each other.
And don't have nightmares.
And Leah and Rashid, good luck with your relationship.
I am a divorce lawyer if anyone needs to put any calls in.